fact, my guess would be you are somewhat a different person in a way, and it's striking you even look physically different. You know, I mean, part of it's your hair, but have you lost weight? You look different even. Has your weight changed much? Or?
My weight has changed. I'm not sure, it's not totally accurate what I am now, about 167, but I came into the jail at 195. Let's see, you saw me 4 months ago, 2 months. I probably was about 185 when you saw me. So I've lost some weight.
So you're 20 pounds down because you're
perfect. I lost so much weight at one time that they put me on a special diet, which meant taking me out of my cell and sitting me in front of the guards and watching me eat everything, and if I wanted seconds, I could have seconds to get my weight back up again.
Is it stable now, or are you still losing?
No, it's stable. It fluctuates between 166, 168, which is the lowest I've been in a long time, but at least it's stabilized, not going down.
Why don't we start by having, if you don't mind doing this way, just you tell me in your own words what you see as the, let's say, the most important things that have happened to you, and in terms of your thinking, your memory, your view of events, your view of people like your mother, and so forth. I mean, I know that there have been changes in all these areas, obviously, from everything I've read, but rather than me leading you in any direction, how about if you just, if you don't mind, just, you know, sit back, take it easy, and just kind of, if you don't mind, in a kind of a narrative form, tell me what's standing out as the kind of the more important things that you've learned or come to remember or thought about or whatever in the 4 months since I saw you last. Okay, I'll try to interrupt as little as possible.
Okay, it may not be chronologically.
That's fine.
I feel the biggest thing, the most important thing to me, one of the most important things since you saw me last that has happened is I feel my emotions more. I act out my emotions more than I ever have in my entire life, which gives me a chance to look at myself in a different light, you know, gives me a chance to really take a look at myself. I feel like my eyes have been open to a lot of things that prior, you know, had been closed. My mother has been a more or less cycle of different events that has acted on me. I always had such a really high opinion of her. I mean, she could do absolutely no wrong whatsoever and still no wrong, and without fault, almost saint-like. And even though I do still have the feelings of love for her because of spending so many years with her, and because there are things that she does that she means well, she just doesn't know any different. She still, I sort of pulled away from her because I have my problems and she has hers, and if I try to get too involved into hers, it's not doing me any good. It's not a very compassionate type of attitude, but I feel there are other people out there that are available to help her, and you know, that's the way it's going to have to be. My attitude has really changed towards her. I see her as a person now, and which is really strange because I've never seen her as a person. I've always seen her as protective mom, you know, just nothing other than that. She was not a human being. She was something an entity, something very special. And that is a very big part of my life that has changed.
How would you describe her now? The description you just gave of her as a saint is what I heard
This
in
is
March.
from before. She is a woman that has a lot of problems. A lot of problems relating to people in general. A lot of problems coping with her own personal problems. I've also realized for the first time how she know whether she enjoys it or not, but how she makes a regular habit of, when she is frustrated and pushed into a corner, she vents her angers or her emotions just totally on whoever is close to her. Usually it's my dad, it's been me, and quite a few letters. And at one time, getting letters like that, I would have just been, there are times when I'm more upset now than angry about those letters.
Now, she used to write you letters like this too? I mean, when I said I'm referring to some letters that I've seen from within the last month or so, I mean, is that the kind of letters you would get from your mother?
Absolutely. She, when I was down in California, I used to get letters like that from her. I could never do right. She was always right no matter what, and just it was a normal thing.
Tell me, if you can, how you explain to yourself now the description that not only that you gave me in March, but that, for instance, you gave Kelly. This goes back a couple of years at least. I mean, I just talked to her this afternoon, and I asked her what impression she had of your mother, both from her own standpoint, which was that she was not, that big a problem to her personally, as mother-in-laws go, and then I asked, well, how did you talk about your mother? How did you describe her? And she gave me the same description that you did in March, that you had always described her as this wonderful person, close to the perfect mother and all that. Obviously, from what you're saying now, and from what has come out, that isn't the case. Those letters alone are hardly, to take just a simple example, are not the kind of letters that one would characterize as written by the perfect mother, right?
Right, absolutely.
Now, and they have nothing to do, her, the kind of things she says in letters to you now or years ago, or the things she did to you as a child, have nothing to do with this case, in terms of, whether you thought she was a saint, or whether you thought she was average, or whether you thought she was a terrible mother, seems to me has nothing to do with whether or not you killed these girls. And so, how do you explain it, if you can, that you had this view of your mother for so long? I mean, and this goes back, as I understand, by talking to Kelly, you had this view. This goes back, as I say, before any of these crimes were committed by whoever committed them. Okay, and you persisted in this view up till fairly recently. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah. If you live for such a long time in a family where the attitude is heavy on old wives' tales and myths, it's very heavy. I'm sure it's heavy in a lot of families, but it's mostly heavy in Italian families. Respect for your parents. This is something that's really drummed into for a very long time. All throughout your childhood. They're looking at your parents, looking at my parents when I was younger. Even though I saw things happening, for some reason, it registered with me that, well, they're adults as my parents, I shouldn't criticize her, she knows what she's doing, and always saw her as being right, This is the way I always, it brought me up to thinking of her the way I did. It had a lot of heavy connotations, was the Italian atmosphere, the way I was brought up.
Okay, but I understand that, the time of the fact that, she had been, let's say, verbally and physically abusive towards you at times as a child, or did you honestly believe that she had never done any of those things when we talked about this some months ago? That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, I really had no idea of just how severe things had been in the past. Actually, not.
What kind of things?
I probably would have woke up a long time ago,
Yeah, the reason, and of course, it struck me as odd at the time, because it's probably been explained to you since, but you see, at the time, I had seen these DePaul clinic records already. I thought you had, or at least that you knew about them, you see, and so, and here, we're talking about something that happened when you were 9 years old. It had no bearing on whether you were guilty or not guilty of something that happened in January 1979 in Bellingham, Washington, right? And so I was puzzled, and I told Dean afterward why you would characterize your mother this way when it was pretty clear to me. I mean, I also have learned more since, but I mean, already I knew a fair amount about the kind of mother she had been at that age, and it puzzled me, why you would characterize her as this wonderful person. Anyhow, can you tell me now what you can remember of her as, let's take around that age, 7, 8, 9-ish. Let's just sort of imagine that we're starting over and we didn't have the previous interview, and I'm coming in now and saying, see, again, it's just sort of part of what psychiatrists do in terms of a general examination, is take a family history,
sure,
as well as a history of recent events. And so, so I'm asking you now, can you describe what kind of a mother your mother was when you were a young child, and what kind of a disciplinarian she was, and what her attitudes were toward you, and how she treated you, and that sort of thing? And go ahead and just tell me.
When I was a child, she was always a very controlling person. She was not only controlling with me, but controlling with my father also. She was the kind of person that I can piece this all together now, and she was the kind of person that there's an extent to how much you deal out punishment for something that a child does, and a type of punishment. But she was the type of person that somehow within her, don't ask me why, most likely felt that the more punishment you deal out and the more severe it is, the less the chances of that act being repeated. And for this, I was punished very severely for minor acts, and you can imagine with major acts of doing something wrong.
What kind of, give me some examples of punishment you received?
Good Lord, so many going through my mind. If I were to come in late, if I was supposed to be home for dinner at a certain time, being a little kids don't have watches, But if I ran down to the playground or something like that, and I was supposed to be home at a certain time for dinner, and I'd come in a little late, I would not only, by little late, I mean I'm talking about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'd not only get physically punished, and a lot of screaming, yelling, and screaming, but I'd probably get sent, to bed without dinner. Now that's not too bad, I guess it happens, in families, but it's just that it happens so much. Coming in late, going out when I wasn't supposed to, even if it was going out to the porch before I got her permission, touching things that I wasn't supposed to, just all these different things, and being someplace in the house I wasn't supposed to be. I remember one time, she used to go to work, and I used to like to watch certain programs that were on around 5 o'clock, and I had a babysitter that would come over and watch me. And what she did was, what the heck was it? Oh yeah, she had a Christmas present she had bought for me. She had it hidden in her cedar chest. And I saw her carry it into the house, and I saw part of the package. And I saw her carry it into a room, and I had a suspicion where it might have been hid. Like a kid, I went nosing around, and I found it. And took it out, looked at it. It was a mannequin that you play with. Maybe not a mannequin, one of those dummies. And I put it back. Well, she had seen that it was moved and asked me about it. And I told her what I had done. And what she did before she went to work is you're grounded, can't see anybody, stay in the house, you go to bed at a certain time. She took the TV and she unplugged it. And then she took the cord of the TV and tied it in a knot. And she says, see, I tied it in a knot, now you can't use it. All you had to do is plug it back into the wall, you know. And she did things like that. It was just a complete, she'd go down a whole checklist. When I get punished, if it was for something that really, really irritated her. There were different things, you know. She really became angry if she thought I couldn't be trusted when she went to work. She wanted to go to work with a clear mind. She would go down a whole checklist of things, you know, practically just about every freedom I'd have, you know, except for existing. And she'd go through this whole checklist. There were times when her punishments were just so severe, and she'd just get carried away, you know. I think it had something to do with she just felt that the more severe the punishment and the more extensive, the less the probability of that thing occurring again. Doing that again.
What do you think was
very badly?
Perhaps the worst punishment she
She and I were having a discussion. I wanted to go someplace and she didn't want me to. And she got tired of me asking to go. And she got so mad that she said I ruined her dinner. And while yelling and screaming that, she picked up her plate of, that's just got mustard and hot dogs and beans. And by the time she got through, there was, you know, like mustard on the walls and beans on the ceiling. And she just picked up the plate and just winged it, and it, you know, it ricocheted off the ceiling and bounced off the wall and landed on the floor. You know, she just go into real bad temper tantrums, really bad ones. I can remember her throwing things at my father when I was younger. The dishes, pans, vases, things like that. You know, just really, but this wasn't real early in my childhood. This was later on. You know, this is probably when I was about 10 years old, you know, 9, 10, 11, around there is when she started actually grabbing things and throwing them. You know, before that it was just a physical picking up a belt. Or
any idea why things got worse around that age?
I don't know. My dad was really heavy into gambling. It seems to me, when I think about the history of my dad's gambling, that he loved the horses, it seems to me like that was a high point, really, of his gambling. Because I can remember nights of him sleeping out in the car in the dead of winter, getting thrown out of the house, and just all kinds of stuff. I can remember electricity being shut off, and he'd gamble whole paychecks and things like that.
And this is around the age we're talking about then,
right.
9, 10.
Right, after that, you know, a couple years after that is when he started to mellow down, and it was just real small bets and no big deal. You know, he still liked the horses. But this is, I think, one thing that really, she's a person that's very money conscious, you know. You should always be you know, you should always have everything and so on and so forth, and not be extravagant, but still be able to pay your bills and stuff like this. And this really could have put her in a bad frame of mind. I don't know. She may have had other personal problems herself that I was unaware of as a kid. You know.
What was she like toward you in the area of sexuality? Both in terms of what she told you or didn't tell you about it, also whether, I don't know, whether she had what you would consider, say, an unusual interest in you, let's say, naked or whatever. Like there are mothers who, let's say, make an effort to sort of be in the bathroom and help let's say, 5 or 10-year-old boy wash himself at an age when he's quite capable probably of doing it himself. And I don't know, you may not have a perspective in which to judge us, but so rather than comparing, I guess, can you just describe to me what you do remember about her in things that relate to sex in any regard, or to body and so on, bodily functions and so on?
God, that's hard to do. I can remember on Wildwood, I can just remember a couple different events. Maybe we can piece together something with that. Wildwood Drive, I remember having the privacy. I was pretty young then, I think it was 2nd grade, having the privacy of being able to take a bath on my own. I'd get a little help scrubbing my back and stuff like that. She made sure I didn't stay in the tub too long because my skin crinkled.
Would she ever then come in when you were from that point on, let's say that age on, when you were either taking a bath or going to the bathroom? Maybe this will help. Do you remember whether the bathroom door had a lock on it, and if so, whether you were to lock it? Sort of thing. Can you either remember or speculate as to whether, if you did, whether your mother would be angry and would react to that if you locked the bathroom door?
I don't think I ever desired to lock the bathroom door. It never came up. Wish I could help you. It's real foggy. I don't remember ever locking the bathroom door. Until I was, like 13. For some reason I started, whenever I go into the bathroom, I, close the door and lock it.
Yeah.
13, 14.
Right. And then from then on, you did?
Basically, depending on the situation, basically I'd go in the bathroom and close the door and lock it to have some privacy. I don't know why. It was just something I got into. I don't know what actually led up to that. I can just remember I can see myself doing that. When I got older, especially when we were living around the present locations that my parents are living now, I don't recall always locking the bathroom doors. All that was necessary was to close it. Nobody was going to come in.
13, 14 is an age when a lot of boys, in fact, probably most boys, discover their body, they discover how to masturbate. And so it would be a natural thing to lock the door and not have somebody walk in on you. Is that a possibility, you think, at that age?
The possibility of somebody walking in?
Possibility that the reason that you might have started locking at that age is that that's the age when you learned how to masturbate.
No, because it was, because I keep thinking of J Street, and it was before that when that happened. I think it was just a privacy thing. We got S on J Street.
Because you're saying that you learned how to masturbate earlier than that.
Campbell and Reese.
Okay, and that's... How old were you?
It's hard for me to talk about on tape, even though I've been through it. I realize and wish you and I could sit down.
I talked to Gene about that today, and I said that I would, we had previous sessions alone, but they're an awful lot things now that both I'd like to talk to you about, and I suspect you'd like to talk about, and that I feel that the taping can, most anybody is going to be inhibited somewhat by, these mics are very obvious here. And the thing is that, he made an agreement that all of the interviews on everybody's part would be taped so they could be available to everybody. And so I can, understand that, and we have to live with that, but I also understand that it is embarrassing.
You know why also it's embarrassing? Because of the leaks that have been occurring, because we don't know who it is has been seeing the tapes that isn't supposed to.
That I am also aware of, and you see, what business is it of anybody's to know this sort of thing? This is the frustration that I feel, is that this may help me to understand you better, but it is not, as far as I'm concerned, the business of the general public. And yet there is the possibility, not just the possibility, unfortunately here it has happened, that material from these tapes has gotten out, and so I understand what you're saying, and frankly, I wish, as I say, I wish, I told you that we could speak in an atmosphere where you would not feel at all inhibited.
Sure.
But we'll do the best we can. I don't know. I hope that by now, one of the notions I think in my coming back, being the last one to see you now after you've been exposed to the taping for a long time, is that maybe to some extent you've gotten used to it, but I don't know.
I was just getting used to it, and then when the more and more publicity came out, especially down in Los Angeles, and naturally, since it's a part of that, it came out up here in regards to things that were supposed to be, kept within a certain circle. When the stuff really started to leak out with the interviews, I felt very uncomfortable coming into these, because I felt like anything I say in here is naturally going to go the route it's gone so far. My God, I'm telling all my personal business to the whole world, and it's not their business. It's not the world's business.
Well, I agree.
I know we can do.
I am glad that we did have at least, sessions in March in strict privacy, and I did get to talk to Kelly alone today with nobody there, no tape recorders. So it's better than nothing. But you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, we could work out a compromise and use paper and write each other notes. This way we're still on tape. Nobody knows. That might be an idea. Anyways, back to I was talking about my childhood and the masturbating.
Right, and yeah, you were saying that actually went back earlier to you lived in a different house.
About 12 years old. Campbell and Race, we live in a corner of Campbell and Race. It actually happened by accident, and I was actually unfamiliar with it happening and real naive about it happening, and it put a scare into me. I think the scare lasted for a while, until I figured out and talked to a few buddies and found out just what was going on and everything, then it was fine. I had an understanding of what was going on.